Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. If something went wrong on the trail right now, not catastrophic, just wrong, like a flat tire, dead battery, fluid leak, something rattled loose that shouldn't have, do you have a real chance of making it home? Not calling for help, not waiting for another rig. I'm talking about you, your Jeep with what you brought. For a lot of people, the honest answer is no. And that's not a knock. Nobody talks about this stuff. Everybody talks about the upgrades, the lift, the tires, the bumpers, the lights. Nobody talks about what actually keeps you moving when something goes sideways. And that is what this video is all about. Not a shopping list, not a flex, a framework. The stuff that gives you a real chance to keep moving and the reason that each piece matters. Here's what I constantly see in the Jeep community. People who put serious money into their build and genuinely are unprepared on the trail. Not because they're careless, because the culture around Jeeps is obsessed with capability. Can I get up that? Can I clear this? What's the flex? And almost nobody asks, what happens when something goes wrong? The trail is remote by definition. Cell service is unreliable. Other rigs aren't always around. Weather changes. Darkness comes fast. And the gap between a minor problem and a dangerous situation is almost always just simply preparation. Everything in this video answers one of three questions. Can I keep moving? Can I fix this? Can I stay safe until I figure it out? If something doesn't answer one of those, it probably doesn't belong in the Jeep. And here's the thing I want you to take from this video. This isn't a checklist to complete tomorrow. It's a framework to build towards. Some of this stuff is cheap, some of it takes time to accumulate. But every piece you add is one more problem you can solve by yourself. Now, I want to stop here for a second before we get into the specific gear, because that three-question framework I just gave you is actually the most important thing in this video. Keep moving, fix the issues, stay safe. Everything we're going to go through, every item, every category, traces back to one of those three. Because that is how you build a kit that actually works. Not by buying everything, but buying the right things for the right reasons. And when you buy something without knowing which problem it solves, that's how you end up with a Jeep full of stuff that's overloaded and you're still stranded on the side of the trail. All right, first category. Most people think they have this covered, but really, most people don't. Not because they pack nothing, but because what they packed doesn't match the specific Jeep's actual needs. That distinction matters, and we're going to get into exactly what I mean by that. I want to talk about tools differently than most people do, because the instinct is to pack light. Just grab a multi-tool, throw a socket set in, and call it good. And then you're out on the trail trying to break loose a bolt that has been on there for years with a ratchet that doesn't have enough leverage. Tools are not about having everything. They're about having the right thing for your specific Jeep. Here's how I think about it. A full socket set, multiple ratchets, socket extensions, a breaker bar, and in this bag, I carry my wrenches, Torx hex bits, pliers, screwdrivers, a big hammer, and all the other things that I might run into when working on the Jeep. Now here's the thing about socket sets specifically. You got to know your Jeep's fastener sizes before you go. Spend an afternoon, walk around your rig with a few sockets in your hands, and figure out what sizes are on the bolts, the diff covers, the control arms, the track bars, all these different bolts that you may run into. That knowledge costs you nothing, and it means something when things go wrong. You're not guessing, you're going to reach for the right tool. But more importantly, you have the exact tools that you need to work on your Jeep. Now another thing, never sleep on improvisational supplies. I feel like these things are always forgotten. Things like duct tape has more uses than I can count on a trail. Or maybe baling wire. Wrap something up, tie it, hold it until you can get back home. Another big one are zip ties. So many uses for these if something comes loose. And JB Weld, the quick set version for a temporary fix that needs to hold something until you can get to a shop, can be incredibly useful. Now JB Weld specifically, I want to be very clear about what it is and what it isn't. It's not a permanent fix, but a cracked housing, a weeping crack in a bracket, anything like that can hold you over for some time. When I cracked my oil pan on the Rubicon, JB Weld is what got me home. And to be honest, I did not have anything with me, but fortunately someone nearby did, and sometimes you have to learn the hard way. All right, now next we need to talk about electrical supplies and tools. Things like electrical tape, wire connectors, heat shrink tubing, extra fuses, making sure you have a tool to pull a fuse out, something like a test light or a multimeter, and some extra wire and a crimping and stripping tool. You never know when a wire might break or pull out of a plug, so having some basic supplies can easily help keep you moving. And lastly, a power jumper box. A dead battery on the trail is not rare. It's guaranteed eventually. Maybe you leave your lights on at camp, your fridge running, your battery overnight, whatever may happen. So if you're relying on another rig to jump you, you've already given up control of the situation. A quality jumper box lives in my Jeep for every trip, no exceptions. Here's what I want you to take away from this whole section. Tools are only useful if they match your Jeep. Generic tool sets are better than nothing, but the day you spend an afternoon under your rig figuring out what sizes actually live on your specific build, that's the day your toolkit becomes a real resource. Tools handle what's broken. They handle what rattled loose. They handle electrical gremlins. But there's an entire category of the trail problem where nothing is broken at all and your Jeep still can't move. It's not a mechanical failure, it's something missing. And this section almost nobody covers, which is exactly why it ends up being the one that catches the most people off guard. Fluids. This might be the most overlooked category in trail prep, and I get it. It doesn't feel exciting to pack a quart of oil, but here's what happens without it. You take a hit on a rock, you crack a diff cover, gear oil starts weeping out slowly. You didn't notice it immediately, so you keep driving, and by the time you smell it and see it, you may be running your differential dry. That's a trail problem that just became a rebuild. Engine oil, at minimum 1 quart, ideally 2, but go with whatever weight your Jeep calls for, and you gotta know this. It's in your owner's manual, probably on your oil cap. There's no excuse to not know this spec of your Jeep. Long wheeling days puts heat and stress on your engine, and having a quart on hand really doesn't cost much, and running your engine low can cost a whole lot more. So when we talk about gear and differential oil, front diff, rear diffs, transfer case is going to probably be ATF in most cases, but ultimately you got to know your specs of what you actually need for your specific Jeep, and in most cases it's not the same fluid for every part of your Jeep. If you have any questions, just ask in the comments below and I'll try to help get you pointed in the right direction. I also carry brake fluid. The correct spec is probably right in the reservoir in your Jeep, but brake fluid loss on the trail is rare, but a flexed out hose or you get snagged on something, fitting can start weeping, this stuff happens. And if you lose your brakes on a descent, that rare moment starts mattering really fast. It's not heavy, it's not expensive, but it does belong in your Jeep. Another one, probably power steering fluid, and then a jug of water for your radiator. In a pinch, clean water in the cooling system does buy you time, and maybe you have to take advantage of that option. But ultimately, the theme across all this is exactly the same. You gotta know your Jeep. You gotta know what fluids it uses. You gotta know the specs. And you know where the fill points are before you actually need them. That's not mechanic level knowledge, it's ownership level knowledge. And that's the difference between someone who drives a Jeep and someone who actually understands theirs. All right, real quick, do you currently pack all these extra fluids? Be honest, because this is exactly the kind of thing that matters. So leave me a comment below. All right, next one. This is the one thing in this entire video that makes a bigger difference to trail performance than most of the upgrades that people spend thousands on. Airing down is technically free after you invest in buying a tool, which usually is not very expensive. And it'll transform how your Jeep performs off-road more than most bolt-on mods will. Now, here's what's actually happening. When you drop your tire pressure, the tire footprint grows. More rubber on the ground means more traction. The tire also becomes more compliant. It wraps around rocks and roots instead of bouncing off them. Less stress on your Jeep and less stress on you. Better control through the rough stuff. Most people run somewhere between 18 and 22 PSI off-road. For rocky terrain, you probably want to go lower. Sandy washes, even lower. Mild forest roads don't necessarily need to be super low, but you will find some comfort in it. The right number for your rig comes with experience. Start experimenting and pay attention to how your Jeep feels. So you're probably wondering what I carry for this. You're going to want a quality deflator. I've used this ARB deflator for years, but I've had a lot of people asking me about these thread-in valve stem ones, so I'm going to give these a try and see how they work. If you can tell here, I have onboard air, but a portable air compressor like this can go a long way in blowing your tires back up when you get back to the road. Now, some people choose CO2 tanks. I personally don't like that because it's something you have to refill, and they're really not that much cheaper than an air system. But whatever you do, get a quality brand and you're going to be just fine. It's always important to have an accurate tire gauge for your compressor or your tank. Either way, make sure you're accurate so you know what you're actually working with. And this is where most people get caught up. They air down on the trailhead, they had a great day on the trail, and they drive home at 15 psi on the pavement because they had no way to air back up. Airing down without a way to air back up isn't trail prep, it's just moving the problem. The compressor is the other half of the system. They do live together. So before we move to the next section, let's recap what we've built so far. Tools to fix the brakes, fluid to handle when leaks or things run low, air management to get the most out of your tires. All three of those are about keeping you moving. But here's the reality of off-roading. Sometimes you're moving fine, your Jeep is running great, your tires are aired down, everything is working exactly like it should, and you still end up stuck. And this is where I see more ego get in the way than any other part of off-roading, because people look at recovery gear and think, I won't need that. And that's a decision that costs people their day, their Jeep, and in serious situations, a lot more than that. I want to say something directly. Getting stuck is not a skill issue. It happens to experienced drivers all the time. It happens on trails that you've run before. It happens when the ground is wetter than it looked, or softer than it was the last time, or when you choose a line, it just doesn't work out. The question is never whether it might happen. The question is, can you deal with it when it does? So here, what I carry: a winch, a tow strap, shackles, quality recovery points on my Jeep. Also a shovel, you never know when you gotta dig. Gloves, a snatch block, and a tree recovery strap or something to wrap around a rock or a tree. Just a note on winches. You don't need one to start. A strap and another vehicle handles the vast majority of recovery situations. But understand that limitation. If you're solo or you go in real deep, a strap doesn't help you. Build your recovery kit to match how you actually wheel. And one more thing, know how to use what you carry. A kinetic rope used wrong is incredibly dangerous to everyone nearby. Practice with this stuff before you need it. There really is no substitute to experience. All right, quick question, and I need your answer below. What recovery gear are you running right now, and what is the next thing you're adding to your kit? Leave a comment below, I read them all, and it genuinely drives what I decide to cover next. All right. Everything up to this point has been about your Jeep, keeping it moving, fixing what breaks, getting unstuck. But the trail doesn't only put stress on the vehicle, it puts stress on you. And this is the section most people skip. Not because they don't care, but because thinking about it means admitting that something could go wrong with them, not just the Jeep. That's a little harder to sit with, but it is the most important one. Look, I get it. Nobody wants to pack a first aid kit. Packing one feels like you're admitting that something could go wrong, but the trail's remote. Help can be very far away at some times. And the difference between a minor injury and a serious one often come down to whether you had the basics. So what I carry, a real first aid kit, full of real supplies that will cover whoever is with me, whether it's my family, my dog, whatever it might be. And I've had this survival kit for years. Fortunately, I've never had to open it, but I always keep it in my Jeep just in case, because it's full of tons of things that are going to help me survive if I get stuck out there in the wilderness all on my own. Another good thing to have is a water filter straw. Something like that can make a big difference if you're stranded out there by yourself. Now look, if you're going with family, this section is not optional. It's the most basic responsibility you have for the people in your vehicle. And here's the thing about first aid that I think most people miss. It's not about preparing for catastrophe. It's about having options. When something small goes wrong, it'll stay small. A cut that gets properly cleaned and wrapped, it's gonna stay a cut. Left unaddressed on a long day of the trail, it can become a problem. Same philosophy with everything else in the kit. You're not preparing for disaster, you're preparing for small problems to stay small. Now, something a lot of people don't plan for, and that is how long things can actually take on the trail. Something goes wrong at 2, now it's 6, it's dark, and you're trying to work on something you can barely see. This next category is something you probably already have, and somehow it still gets skipped. Trying to work on your Jeep in the dark with your phone propped up against a frame rail is one of the most frustrating experiences you can have on the trail, and it's completely avoidable. What I carry, a good headlamp, flashlights with high lumens, small ones, big ones, whatever you need, but be able to make sure you can get into tight spaces. A good cam lantern goes a long way to lighting up the whole area and not just what you're looking at. Be sure to have fresh batteries for every trip. Check them, replace them if needed. This category is cheap, but there's no excuse to being caught in the dark unprepared. Now, let's talk about something that shifts the whole nature of the trail problem: time. When everything is going right, time isn't really a factor. You're on a schedule. You know where you are, you know when you'll be back. But the second something goes wrong, you're on the trail schedule now. And that can mean an extra hour, it can mean an extra 4 hours. And in a real situation, it could mean overnight. And the moment that time becomes the variable, stuff that felt optional starts to really matter a lot. The next section is the most basic category on the list, and it's the one that most people think they don't need right up until they do. Water. I carry more water than I think I need for every single trip, because when something goes wrong out there, you're not on your own schedule anymore. You're on the trail schedule. And this can mean an extra hour or two. It could mean overnight. And in desert heat, dehydration starts affecting your judgment. And impaired judgment on a remote trail turns small problems into bigger ones real fast. Beyond drinking water, food. Something with real calories and protein that really doesn't need any prep. Fire, waterproof matches, whatever you need. A good knife, some paracord, a whistle, which is in my survival kit. And even above all that, maybe a satellite communicator if you're going anywhere without reliable cell service. Me personally, I use the Starlink Mini. This has been an absolute game changer for my anxiety level, especially when I'm traveling with my kids or my family in general. I use the Veritas Vans mount. I mount it right to my Jeep, and it just sits up there, especially because I got the battery that you can buy to go with it, and it's super easy to use. It just mounts out of the way. I don't have to run any cords, but I can. Anyway, I love this thing. It's totally changed how I feel when I'm in remote places with my kids. And if you want to check one of these out, I do have a link in my description. But anyway, this next section will literally decide if your Jeep is going to come home with you or not, or if it's going to stay out on the trail. Let's talk about flat tires. Flat tires are not an if, they're a when. Rocky terrain is incredibly hard on your tires. The forest, sticks can pop up and get you at any time. And that's kind of the deal that you accepted when you started off-roading. The question is just whether you can handle it when it happens. So for me, what I carry is, number one, a spare tire. I also do a tire plug kit, which can help save a hole up on top here. I also carry a sidewall patch kit. These can be incredibly valuable if you slice your sidewall. Another valuable tool is a valve stem emergency kit. Fortunately, I've never had to use these, but I do keep them just in case I ever pop one out and need to pop one of these in to allow my tire to air back up. Very important to have a good lug wrench. For me, it's a breaker bar, and then I have aftermarket wheels that require different lugs, so they have a key. So whether you have a stock wheel, make sure you have the socket that fits it, as well as the locking key in case you have locking nuts, or if you have aftermarket lug nuts and you need something like this, always make sure it's in your kit. Now, another one that some people might not think of is a bottle jack. And the reason I say this is, if you've changed your Jeep's height through a lift or tires, that scissor lift might not cut it anymore. So having an appropriate sized bottle jack for your height as well as your lift and the weight of your Jeep is very important, so that you can change a tire if you need it. And ultimately, just be sure to have the matching tools for your lug nuts, otherwise you're not going to be able to change a tire. Now look at everything we just covered. I know it seems like a lot, but it's not flashy, and none of it's going to turn heads at the trailhead. But here's what it does do. It gives you options. When something goes wrong, and eventually something is going to go wrong, you're not just hoping, you have a real chance. And that's the entire point of this channel. Not to help you spend more, but to help you make better decisions with what you have. Build this kit over time. Start with what you can do this week. Maybe it's a plug kit, duct tape, basic hand tools, spare fuses, and then just add as you go. And every time you learn something new about your Jeep, what fluids it takes, what fastener sizes that the brackets use, you're becoming a more capable off-roader. Not because you bought something, but because you understand something. And that is the whole game. Now, if you want a clear starting point, I put together a free Jeep cost control playbook. Walks you through exactly what to prioritize and what to build in what order, and where most people waste money. The link's in the description. It's free. Now, there's also a link in the description if you want to pick up any of the items that I showed you today to help build out your kit. And right now, I'm sitting at the trailhead, and I'm about to make 5 videos that are going to help you become a better off-roader. And a lot of these are questions that you've asked me so far. So make sure you subscribe so that they come right to your feed whenever they're ready to publish. But for now, check out this video next. Thanks for stopping by, Roam Nation. I'll see you on the next one.